Chapter 4. Risk Analysis and Risk Control. A risk analysis. According to Tarwaka, 2008, a potential hazard is something that has the potential to cause loss, damage, injury, illness, accident, or even death related to work processes and systems. Grouping potential hazards based on general categories. 1. Hazardous substances, potential danger from hazardous materials. 2. Pressure hazards, potential dangers of compressed air. 3. Thermal hazards, potential dangers of hot air. 4. Electrical hazards, potential electrical hazards. 5. Mechanical hazards, potential mechanical hazards. 6. Gravitational and acceleration hazards, potential dangers of gravity and acceleration. 7. Radiation hazards, potential radiation hazards. 8. Microbiological hazards, potential microbiological hazards. 9. Vibration and noise hazards, potential for noise and vibration. 10. Hazards relating to human factors, potential ergonomic hazards. 11. Environmental hazards, potential work environment hazards. 12. Potential dangers related to product and service quality, production processes, property, public image, etc. According to Ramley, 2009, danger is anything, including situations involving actions that have the potential to cause accidents or injury to humans, damage or other disturbances. 1. Types of danger, namely, A. Mechanical hazards. B. Electrical danger. C. Chemical hazards. D. Physical danger. E. Biological hazards. 2. Sources of danger are A. Explosive material. B. Oxidizing materials. C. Flammable materials. D. Toxic material. E. Corrosive materials. F. Radioactive material. 3. Hazard identification techniques, namely, A. Passive technique. B. Semi-proactive technique, circa. Proactive techniques. 4. Identification of sources of danger, carried out by considering the following. A. Conditions and events that can give rise to potential danger. B. Types of accidents and POC that may occur. 5. Hazard identification activities, namely, A. Consult with experienced people. B. Physical inspection of the work environment. C. Record injuries and illnesses from past incidents. D. Hazard identification information, research, and expert advice. E. Task analysis for hazard identification. F. A formal system of hazard analysis. For example, Hazard 6. The use of hazard identification is A. To find out the dangers that exist. B. To find out the potential dangers, both the consequences and the frequency of occurrence. C. To find out the location of danger. D. To show that these dangers can provide protection. E. To show that a particular hazard will not result in an accident, so no protection is provided. F. For further analysis. Examples of techniques for identifying hazards are as follows. A. Walk around and pay attention to things that could be the source of accidents. B. Don't pay attention to trivial things, focus on something that could cause a serious incident. C. Ask workers what they think about the dangers of the work they do. D. Pay attention to the work instructions provided by the factory. E. Study incident records and worker health records at the site. F. Study the findings of previous inspections. G. Make observations, especially on energy sources. H. Pay attention to all types of work at that location. I. Consider the presence of other people who are not always in that location. J. Estimate all the people who could possibly be injured as a result of activities at that location. K. For each identified hazard, pay attention to the number of people and the length of time they were exposed to the hazard. Points to pay attention to from incident records include A. Objects that are the source of accidents, hammers, slings, iron plates, dump trucks, etc. B. The type of accident that occurred, trapping, fall, collision, etc. C. Non-standard conditions that cause incidents, slippery, sharp, narrow, dusty, etc. D. Unsafe actions that cause incidents, not wearing PPE, not carrying out procedures, etc. E. Injured body parts, head, body, legs, hands, etc. F. Which sections often find irregularities, deviations in previous inspection records? G. Types of deviations, deviations found from the results of previous inspections. H. Which critical areas often escape supervisor supervision? B. Risk control. The principle of occupational safety and health analysis is to look for causes at all levels, from the general layer to the main causes that are thoroughly searched. Until they can be identified the main cause and make improvements. Hazards that have been identified and assessed, then risk control planning must be carried out to reduce the risk to the maximum limit. Risk control can follow the hierarchy of control approach. The risk control hierarchy is a sequence of prevention and control the risks that may arise consist of several levels sequentially. There are two approaches to the risk control hierarchy, namely, A. Long-term gains. The long-term gain approach is long-term oriented and permanent control starting from controlling substitution, elimination, technical engineering, isolation or limitation, administration and finally the choice of use of personal protective equipment. B. Short-term gains. The short-term gain approach, namely short-term oriented and temporary control. This control approach is implemented as long as more permanent controls cannot be implemented. These risk control options start from the use of personal protective equipment upwards to substitution. Tarwaca, 2008. The risk control plan includes A. Elimination. Elimination is a risk control that is permanent and must be tried to be implemented as a top priority option. Elimination can be achieved by moving work objects or work systems related to the workplace that are not acceptable according to K3 provisions. Regulations or standards or whose levels exceed the permitted threshold limit value, NAV. A good way to control is by eliminating causes potential danger can be eliminated. B. Substitution. The way to control substitution is to replace more dangerous materials and equipment with less dangerous or safer materials and equipment. C. Engineering control. Engineering controls include changing the structure of a work object to prevent someone from being exposed to potential hazards. The control methods used are by providing machine guards, covering conveyor belts, making machine foundation structures with cast concrete, providing mechanical aids, providing sound absorbers on the walls of machine rooms that produce high noise, and so on. D. Isolation. The control method is carried out by separating a person from the work object, such as running production machines from a closed place, control room, using remote control. E. Administrative control, administration control. The control carried out is by providing a work system that can reduce the possibility of a person being exposed to potential dangers depending on the behavior of the worker and requires regular supervision to comply with this administrative control. This method includes accepting new workers according to the type of work to be handled, arranging work time and rest time, work rotation to reduce boredom, implementing work procedures, rearranging work schedules, skills training and K3 training. F. Personal protective equipment, administration control. Personal protective equipment is used to limit exposure to the body and potential harm received by the body. In determining risk controls for the hazards we identify, The following things must be taken into account. Have there been any risk controls in the past? If there is the control adequate or not? If it is not adequate, determine new control measures to eliminate or reduce the risk to the lowest possible level. Engineering controls include changing work procedures, closing and isolating hazardous materials, using work automation, using wet work methods and air change ventilation. Administrative control, reducing exposure time, developing safety and health regulations, wearing protective equipment, installing warning signs, creating data lists for safe materials, conducting emergency response system training, health monitoring, carrying out health checks. The main objective of occupational safety and health is to prevent and reduce or even eliminate work accidents. Therefore, occupational safety and health are very important to remember consequences arising from work accidents. In action, the prevention of work accidents must be based on the understanding that accidents are as a risk inherent in every related process, activity with work. In every work process, activity, there is always a risk of failures. When a work accident occurs, no matter how small, it will result in a loss. Therefore, so as much as possible and as early as possible, prevent accidents. Potential work accidents must be prevented, eliminated, or at least reduced in impact. Handling of work safety issues must be taken seriously by all components of business actors, cannot be done partially but must be done overall. Preventing work accidents can be done if you fail sources that cause work accidents or symptoms may arise which could lead to work accidents. The next step is to eliminate, secure and control the sources of danger or symptoms. Steps that can be taken to eliminate, secure and control sources of danger or symptoms that can cause work accidents are: A. Regulations. Legislation in Indonesia has been prepared to protect workers against possible dangers posed by work, for example, Law No. 1 of 1970 concerning occupational health. B. Standardization. Standardization is the establishment of standards, both official and unofficial, that meet occupational health and safety requirements. With the standards that have been set, the degree or quality of occupational health and safety can be seen based on the fulfillment of these standards. C. Inspection. Inspection or checking is an activity that proves whether the workplace is in accordance with applicable laws and regulations and standards. This activity includes checking and calibrating equipment used in the workplace. D. Technical research. This technical research is aimed at obtaining data, properties and characteristics of dangerous materials, investigating safety fences, personal protection testing, research on explosion prevention, and other technical research. E. Medical research. Medical research is aimed at obtaining data about psychological, pathological effects, environmental factors, and physical conditions that result in work accidents. F. Psychological research. Psychological research is aimed at finding out psychological patterns that cause work accidents. G. Statistical research. Statistical research is aimed at obtaining data about work accidents that occur regarding type, frequency, personality, causes, and other matters related to work accidents. H. Education. Education is a vehicle for conveying material about occupational health and safety which can be done formally and informally or can also be in the form of seminars, workshops or demonstrations. I. Exercise. This training is focused on new workers who do not have much experience with the type of work and work environment they will face. J. Persuasion. Persuasion is a method of counseling or approach in the field of occupational health and safety to create an attitude of prioritizing safety without any coercion. K. Insurance. This insurance financial incentive is aimed at increasing the prevention of work accidents. Companies that have fulfilled legal regulations and work safety standards will pay smaller insurance premiums compared to companies that do not meet legal regulations and work safety standards. L. Implementation. The implementation referred to is the application of the steps described above in the workplace. M. Technical. Elimination. Removal of sources of danger. Substitution. Replacing with less dangerous ingredients. Isolation. Dangerous work processes are isolated. Enclosing. Confining, fencing off sources of danger. Ventilation. Maintenance. N. Administration. Monitoring work environment. Education and training. Labeling. Health checkup. Job rotation. Housekeeping. 5S clean sanitation and provision of health facilities. O. Supervision. Review work supervision procedures thoroughly. Review the competency of supervisors in supervising work through work permits and field audits. Confirmation of the construction manager's duties as the sole person responsible and who has the right to approve the work permit. P. Job control. 1. Revise the work permit system which will ensure verification at the end of working hours. 2. Risk assessments must be carried out, again, and approved, if changes to the job occur. Q. Employee, team culture and motivation. Develop a culture of stopping work if it is not safe. Review work teams that have been together for a long time, because they tend to give rise to excessive self-confidence. Prevent and deal with other accidents. 1. Accident prevention. A. Implement legal regulations with full discipline. B. Implementing work standards that have been officially used. C. Health examination before employment, prospective workers, to find out whether the prospective worker is compatible with the new job, both physically and mentally. D. Periodic, repeat health checks, namely to evaluate whether the causal factors have caused disturbances to workers. E. Carry out good supervision. F. Put up warning signs. G. Carrying out education and outreach to the community. H. Installation of labels and warning signs. I. Processing. Transportation and storage must comply with existing provisions and regulations. J. Store hazardous materials in a place that meets the safety requirements for storing these materials. K. Education about occupational health and safety is provided to workers continuously so that they remain alert in carrying out their work. L. Use of protective clothing. M. Isolate dangerous operations or processes, for example the process of mixing dangerous chemicals and operating very noisy machines. N. Local ventilation arrangements, so that waste materials gas can be sucked in and flowed out. O. Substitution of more dangerous materials with less dangerous materials or no harm at all. P. Providing general ventilation to circulate air into the workspace as needed. 2. Accident management. A. Firefighting. Do not throw lit cigarette butts in places containing flammable materials. Avoid burning sources in open areas. Avoid explosive dust clouds. B. Handling fires due to electrical installations and lightning. Make electrical installations in accordance with applicable regulations. Use fuses, MCB, according to the size required. Use cables that have good safety standards. Replace cables that are worn or defective in installations or other electrical equipment. Avoid branching connections between houses. Measure conductor continuity, insulation resistance and grounding resistance periodically. Use lightning distribution installations according to standards. C. Accident prevention in elevators. Install signs and instructions that are easy for users to read in case of an emergency. Do not load the lift beyond its capacity. Do not carry open flame sources in the lift. Do not smoke or throw cigarette butts in the elevator. If there is a power cut, the elevator will stop at the nearest floor and elevator door. Opens immediately after stopping. Immediately exit the elevator carefully. D. Accident management of hazardous substances. Hazardous substances are materials which, during their manufacture, processing, transportation, storage and use, cause irritation, fire, explosion, corrosion, suffocation, poisoning and other dangers to the health of the person concerned with them or cause damage to objects or property. Riches. 3. Other safety approaches. A. Planning. Work safety should be taken into account from the planning stage of the establishment of the organization, school, office, industry, company. Things that need to be taken into account include location, storage facilities, processing area, waste disposal, lighting and so on. B. Good and regular housekeeping. Place goods in the proper place. Do not place goods in places used for human traffic and routes used for emergency rescue. Maintain a clean environment from hazardous materials, for example, avoid oil spills on floors or pedestrian paths. C. Work uniform. Avoid clothes that are too loose, lots of strings, ties, torn clothes, keys, chain bracelets. If you work with rotating items or moving machines, for example grinding machines, spinning machines. Avoid celluloid clothing if you work with explosive or flammable materials. Avoid carrying or storing in clothing pockets sharp items, sharp objects, explosive materials, and/or flammable liquids. D. Personal protective equipment, glasses. Use glasses that are appropriate for the work you are handling. For example, for work welding requires glasses with glass that can filter welding rays. Swimming goggles used to protect the eyes from water and harmful substances contained in water. Shoes. Use shoes that can protect your feet from weight falling on your feet. Nails or objects, sharp objects, incandescent objects, and acids that may be stepped on. Shoes for electrical workers are a must, made of non-conductor or insulator, without metal nails. Gloves. Use gloves that do not hinder finger and hand movement. Choose gloves with materials appropriate to the type of work being handled, for example gloves to protect yourself from punctures or cuts. Dangerous chemicals, heat, electric shock or certain radiation, different materials. Safety helmet. Use a hat that can protect your head from being hit by falling objects or other objects moving, but still light. Ear protection. To protect workers from noise, moving objects, splashes of hazardous materials. Lung protection equipment. To protect workers from the dangers of air pollution, toxic gases, or the possibility of. Other protective equipment, such as a safety rope to protect workers from possible falls.